people that waited in line just to share this experience of Venom, Candyman, Night of the Living Dead, The Rock, Final Destination. But I want you to know you are now entering the
Cinema
Chop Shop with a top and the pop. Boom, boom, bop.
The Cinema Chop Shop.
What's going on, everybody? It's Davey from the 80s, and you are now entering the Cinema Chop Shop. So park your ass right there. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like, the share, and the subscribe button. And today I'm here with a special guest, Daniel DelPurgatorio. You gotta say it with the Italian accent, with a little spice. You know what I'm saying? How are you doing today?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Ah, man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So if you guys do not know, Daniel made a movie called Marshmallow, which I want to get into the title because I want to know something about the title, but I'll get to that in a minute. I'm already jumping ahead of the gun. So if you will, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself for those that don't know, and for those that do know, you know, it'll just be a little refresher, but if you will.
Yeah. So I am a filmmaker. I've been doing a lot of commercial work on one side, and then I've been doing, entertainment projects on the other. So I have directed a bunch of short films with a bunch of my friends. And Marshmallow is my first feature length film that I've done. So, yeah. And I dabble between like animation and live action. Like a lot of my shorts are live action. I've done some animation stuff. I love animation as well. So I kind of play on both sides of the coin.
Okay, cool. What kind of animations have you, like, what's some of your animation work that you've done?
Yeah, I did a film a little bit ago called Tales of the Black Freighter, which was part of the Watchmen film that Zack Snyder directed. So it was the standalone pirate tale that was a part of the original graphic novel. So that was the first like bigger film that I directed.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah. Okay, Watchmen. Got you. All right. It's funny that you mentioned that you made shorts because I found one of your shorts on Alter.
Yeah.
Bug bites, right?
Yeah.
How was the process of like submitting your work to Alter? Is it strenuous or is it pretty straightforward?
That film, we were fortunate enough to have played in a bunch of like festivals and stuff, and I actually got contacted by Alter. Some of them saw it at a festival, and they asked if they could show it on their platform, which obviously I'm a huge fan of Alter. So it was cool to have gotten contacted by them. So yeah, once we were done with our festival run, we set up a specific time where they were able to release it. And they have just so much cool shit on that website just in general. So yeah. And it's a range of like really crazy stuff, really scary stuff, really weird stuff, really funny. So it's cool to, constantly check in and see what they have out for that week or every 2 weeks, whatever it is.
Definitely. And Alter has been responsible for a couple of their shorts have turned into full-length films, right?
Yeah.
Like I think the Stylist did, Piggy, which I was a huge fan of. There's another one I can't think of, but a few of their movies have gotten that. They've gotten a lot of highlight, which is great because I remember when Alter was only like a couple 100,000 subs, and then now it's like over the millions. So yeah, it's definitely benefiting from the horror thriving right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool too. Like short films, you do it for fun with your friends, but also like when we've done our films, it's, we do it on the side or on the weekends or at nights or whatever. Outside of the regular job. But the coolest part is obviously being able to go to festivals, but to meet people at the festivals, whether it's other filmmakers or just people that are at the events. It's really cool. And I've honestly built up like a huge, all of my friends now are people that I've met at different festivals over the years, and we've all become really close, and we all work on each other's movies. Whether I'm doing something for a friend's film that he's directing, or, she's directing something and I do effects we all kind of just like work together, which is awesome.
Oh, you dibble and dabble in effects too?
Yeah. You mentioned this. No, I do. Well, I do VFX stuff and I love practical effects, but you mentioned the stylist, like Jill, who directed that. Like I worked on the stylist feature, and my friend John edited it. So like we all have like these. Everybody does something different on each other's projects, which is cool.
Well, that's cool. Like, so it's like community based.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's people don't realize it. Like independent films in general, it's the more that we do and the more that other people do and the more that we support it, whether we like films or not, it's very subjective whether you like a movie or not, but the more support and we put into each other, the better it is for the industry, because you have bigger studios and bigger actors and bigger producers out there looking at the success and the amount of stuff that's coming out. And when they see that there's a community out there that's behind it, they're willing to take more risks and to make more stuff and to push it. So it's really important that we're out there supporting each other's films, each other's projects, and pushing that stuff to continue to thrive in this industry,
Yeah, and it's funny because I wanted to ask you, because it just randomly came into my head as you were talking. Marshmallow, was it hard to get that put into like, main theaters, like get a mainstay at theaters?
It was interesting because we made the film. Obviously, it's an independent film. And I had got a call from the producer, and the producer's like, "Hey, they want to put this in theaters." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, I just, don't think that for like an independent movie. You know what I mean? And that's the dream come true. Like you go to festivals, and when you go to festivals, you're hoping that you meet somebody that sees the movie that goes, "Oh, let's put this in a theater. We want to pick it up or whatever." So that's the goal. So like we had that lined up before we even went to a festival, which was really, really cool. And of course, the week that we came out followed Minecraft. So a lot of how the booking works is very different. That's not my world, but it depends on how many theaters you get based on how movies are playing in the theater and how they're performing, and whether movies are going to expand on their second week, meaning they need more theaters, or if they're going to shrink down, meaning you lose theaters. So it's cool. I mean, Minecraft like overperformed, and it's great that people are going to the movies, which is a massive win. But it was cool that we still got a fairly substantial amount of theaters across the United States where people saw it. And it was really cool to have people like you, for example, to have reached out and said, "Hey, I saw your movie." That's just like a dream come true.
Definitely. Because I can tell you in LA, your movie had a cool 2 to 3 week run at about at least 10 or at about 10 or more theaters for sure. Most of them were AMCs. Yeah,
we started with AMC. Like that was the initial theater chain that we were working with, and then it expanded out to other theaters within that, but that was like the big one. So again, like that's a massive theater chain that I go to the movies multiple times a week with my family. So it was very surreal to walk in and see a poster for a film that I made, next to Minecraft and like big ass movies that are playing.
Right, because that's what got me. I saw the poster and I was like, this looks very retro, and I watched the trailer and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go watch it. And I even was like, the trailer sold me so much that the movie was playing at a very like inconvenient time for me, and I still went out to see it because the showtime for it were like 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, do I really want to go watch a movie at 10 o'clock at night? And I was like, yeah, but this looks interesting, and it'll play into the vibe, the whole summer camp vibe, watching like a late night movie. I feel like it played into the aura, so I was like, you know what, let's go have an experience, and it was fun. I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, thank you.
So, random question. If you can choose to be an understudy to any director, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I would say I have a lot of answers to that. I would probably say Steven Spielberg. Just because growing up, watching his films when I was young, like Close Encounters and like E.T., Indiana Jones, that stuff, it was the first time that I like experienced like that sort of, I don't know, the connection. I like really, really connected to film with like Close Encounters and E.T. when I was really little. I was like, holy shit.
Duel's underrated too.
What's that?
Duel's underrated.
Oh yeah. Amazing. And Jaws. Yeah. Oh yeah, I love it. And Jaws, I love Jaws. Like, and those films were like different from even when I like watched very early on. I stole my dad's VHS tape of or Mad Max, Friday the 13th Part 2, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So like I had two very different like film experiences where the on one side with like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and stuff like that, it was this sort of nostalgia and it was like really big, right? And then on the other side, when I watched those other films, I didn't know you could feel that way watching a movie and be like, they messed me up. And still, I still have very visceral reactions to Mad Max and Texas Chainsaw from being, 8 years old watching that stuff. So it was really cool that these two very different types of films inspired me in different ways.
Okay, great question. That was a good answer. So if you can have any lead actor for a future film, like who would you want? Like who's your dream lead actor for a movie of yours?
Michael Shannon. I love Michael Shannon. I think he's a fantastic actor. And even Joaquin Phoenix. Like I remember watching The Master, and it was like there's a few times where I watched films where it looks effortless for the performer. And I remember The Master for Joaquin Phoenix was very effortless. And I just, Michael Shannon, I just love a lot of the stuff that he's done. I think he's just a really, really great performer. He's just like so into it. So yeah, I think those would be the two.
Okay, all right, that's a good answer. Good answer. So was this movie ever intended to be a slasher? Marshmallow.
Sort of, yes, yeah, sort of, but not really. Like the goal, like when I read the script, there was three very distinct parts in the film, and it was like the coming of age summer camp movie, right? That was part one. Part two was the introduction of like the Friday the 13th vibe, and part three is something very different where it goes into like a different territory, which my inspirations were like Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, stuff like that. So like
I Twilight Zone too.
yeah. So I really like the idea that we were gonna do something that was kind of shifting in tone from three different things. But the through line of the whole thing is a coming of age story, and it's about being a kid in the world. Like that's the hardest thing when you're growing up, is trying to find your place in the world, find your friends, find your footing. And everybody struggles with that. Even as you're older, you're still trying to find that. So that was like the through line that I thought was really interesting. But then we said, how do we accent and really kind of go off the rails with it? So yeah, that's what the intention was when we put it together.
Okay. I got one that I can mildly spoil it depending on how you answer it. So I'm just gonna throw that out there right now.
Yeah.
I have my little horn in a minute, but you mentioned when we had a conversation that this film is based on like fake reality. Is that the reason why it has like this grainy look, or that's just like that, or was that just a directorial choice?
Yeah. Yes, and no. So I have a specific style that I like in terms of the look, but the way that the camp was constructed, when we set this up and I started talking with like my production designer and everybody that was going to work on it, I would always say the camp is Disney World, right? Like when you go to Disney World, it's a facade. There's a bunch of facades with different looks and styles. You go to one spot and you're in like the future. You go to another spot, you're in an old Western town. And so the camp was set up in a way that it needed to look and feel like what kids would think a camp would be, right? So it has every trope. Oh, there's always going to be a campfire story. There's always going to be hot chocolate. There's always going to be these very specific types of characters, right? And the buildings are going to look a certain way because that's what people know about camp. And so that's how we sort of built it. So it was kind of a false front, so to speak.
Okay. All right. What movies did you draw inspiration from while filming this movie?
Yeah. There was reference of like Meatballs for like the camp aspect of it for the first, kind of first part. Obviously for the second part, we got into Friday the 13th, The Burning, Sleepaway Camp, some of the more traditional stuff. And then the ends, it was, as I said, Black Mirror. There was a lot of E.T. inspiration in there. There was some Twilight Zone inspiration in there as well. And that's sort of, I think, how the tonal shift happens in that third act.
Yeah, that third act definitely that was a hell of a turn.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching it, you want answers. And as you're watching it, you're like, they got to give me an answer somewhere. Like, I got to figure out like what's going on. Like, it has to happen. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, okay, cool. And that's what I said in my review. I was like, you know what? Like the movies that I hate watching are when they give you an answer and you don't feel satisfied. This is one of the movies where when you finally get your answer, you're like, okay, I can rock with that. I can live with that. All right, that's a good answer. I like that, you know, and it's something that you can build on, obviously, especially because of the ending of the movie. But kudos to you for doing that, because a lot of people drop the ball on the third act, or they drop the ball in the explanation, or they drop the ball even in the execution of the explanation. And I feel like you did that really well. So kudos to you guys for doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, obviously I love all different types of horror films, from the more extreme stuff to the more like sci-fi, whatever. And with this one, it was a very specific, you know, we set it up and we read the story. We're like, okay, well, the kids are the victims here for multiple reasons, but the kids are the victims. And so we need to set it up in a way that the payoff plays to the kids. And, you know, people are going to go in, and some people are going to want a very specific, like Friday the 13th, like chopping people up and pinning them to trees and stuff. Right. Totally understand that. And some people are going to go in wanting that, and they're going to roll and ride with the sort of where it goes. And we knew that early on, you know, like we're doing something that is a little out of the ordinary for what the project called for. And some people are going to love it and some people aren't, but that's the best part about making movies. You make stuff and you find your audience and you find the people that connect with it. And then there's some people that don't, and that's okay, because it's a subjective form of art, right? And everyone's got different tastes and opinions. So you never know what you're going to get, but that was definitely a very clear intention when we made the film.
Oh yeah, because I was definitely expecting people getting pinned to trees and stuff. And then like when it didn't happen, I'm like, what's going on here? And then when you get to the third act, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now I get it, right?
You know what's really and it's funny too, because a lot of people like will hear or read reviews, it's great. I love it. I love hearing people's takes on it. You kind of have to have a thick skin when you make art, whether it's music or paintings or whatever it is, because like I said, everybody's got a different take. So it's funny when we like see reviews or people talking about it, they're like, oh, new camp horror slasher. And it makes me laugh, because I'm like, oh, I've never called it a camp horror slasher before. I call it, summer camp horror, because it is it's a summer camp horror film. But I love to hear even people that like the film, they still call it a summer camp slasher, which is cool, because it kind of is, but not really, but kind of. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because you could definitely, it feels like, especially with the trailer, trailer made me believe it was a slasher. I was like, all right, cool. Like, you about to have this guy in a freaking nursing outfit, like doing the deed, you know? And when you watch it, you're like, okay, so that's not that. But again, the good part about it is when you finally get the reasoning for everything, you're like, okay, it makes sense. It makes complete sense. This is why it's not a slasher. But the funny thing about it is the way that it ends, it can possibly go down that route later.
Absolutely.
So because it kind of, the ending felt, have you seen the movie The Guest with Dan Stevens?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it reminds me of like how extreme that movie gets, like in the third act. Yeah. It felt like if like your movie would have continued, it could have went that route.
Yeah. And I like the interesting part about the ending is the way it ends. There's, it sums it up in the last like 5 to 7 minutes, right? And it goes a very specific direction, as you're mentioning. However, all of that stuff is very, very tied to all the beginning parts of the movie, where you're watching the bully and you're seeing all of this stuff unfold. All of that stuff that happens at the end happens very much in the beginning. And so like we sprinkle it in.
It was the precursor.
It was the precursor. And it's funny because I had people that messaged me. They're like, I saw your movie twice. I saw your movie 3 times. And every time I watched it, I got something different out of it, because there's lines of dialogue or the way that the adults are playing their roles, what they're saying and what they're doing ties so much to what you've seen or which is cool. Like I like movies like that where I get to watch it again and I pick something else up or I hear something. And like even my best friend, who I didn't let him see the movie until it was done. Like he went to the theater and saw it with me and he was like, oh damn, like he didn't know what to expect. And he watched it again. He was like, oh, I got this. And he's like asking me all these questions, which is really funny to sort of get that response, which is cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's funny because when you mentioned that, like in the third act, like once stuff started happening, I started remembering what the main camp counselor guy, what he was saying, and I was like, oh, okay. Now it's starting to make sense why he was saying, because it comes off as like harmless dialogue, and you're kind of like, that kind of sounds weird the way he worded it. But I was thinking like maybe it was just like a dialogue choice, maybe it was just a director choice. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, there was purpose behind that.
Yeah.
Got you. I was like, all right. So were you a fan of Goosebumps growing up?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Okay. So one of my subscribers pointed out that that this the movie is similar to a Goosebumps book by the name of Welcome to Camp Nightmare.
I don't know that I've read that one.
Yeah, so it's kind of I read like the synopsis of it and I was like, okay, I could kind of get it. It's like they're sitting at a campfire or whatever, and I think they tell a story about some monster or something, and then the monster appears, but then it turns out like at the end of the story that it's like that they're on another planet or something. It turns out that they're on another planet and then they're going to Earth or something. I forgot. But it like when you read some of it, you're like, oh, okay, I can see it. I can kind of see it. So I was just wondering if there was any correlation with that.
No, but what's really funny is that a lot of people mention, they're like, oh, a lot of reviews, it's like Stephen King meets Goosebumps or Goosebumps for adults or whatever. And I was like, that's a huge compliment. Because I remember early on, I was referencing Goosebumps. I was referencing Erie, Indiana, another great show. Like I loved all of those sort of like weird, like horror-ish books and shows that were made for kids back in the day, which was, gateway horror to some extent. Like I remember growing up and my kid was, I don't know, 5 or 6, and he started watching like the original Goosebumps show. And I was just like, oh, it's cool that he like got super into that. And so, yeah.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yeah, another one. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. I love that stuff. It's great. Anything that gets kids and people into our genre is awesome. You know what I mean? And like some of it's extreme, some of it's not extreme. Like I had a very extreme introduction to horror when I was young I told you, with Mad Max and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and that stuff. However, I just love anything that like opens the door to bring other people over to experience the fun of genre filmmaking. It's the best. It really is.
Yeah. I don't know if this is going to lead us to any spoiler categories, but you can't just warn the audience, I guess, if it have. Why the title Marshmallow? I feel like I have a reason why the title is called Marshmallow, but I want to hear your reasoning first, and then I'll tell you what I thought.
Yeah. Two reasons why it was called Marshmallow. Obviously, when you think of summer camp, you think of hot chocolate, marshmallows, all of that stuff. I think that sums it up. But really, our character description early on when we were working on the film and developing the character, he was constantly referenced as a marshmallow because he's very soft. And, a lot of kids.
My wife is punching the air right now because that's what she said.
Yeah. And it made sense because like, as the movie goes, like you could get burnt, you could get squished, like, and that kind of, it just summed it up, which is, was really exciting,
Okay,
what was yours? Obviously, and there's a huge aspect of hot chocolate and the drinks that they make that plays a big part.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So it does.
That's what it was. I was like, oh, is it called that because of that? But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, they didn't really have, like marshmallows were there, but most of the time when you see the hot cocoa drink, it was like whipped cream on top. It wasn't really marshmallows.
Yeah. So we have some scenes where they're throwing marshmallows in, or people will have drinks with marshmallows on top, and they're always every time you see one, there's a pile of marshmallows there as well. So it just sort of, it tied to that aspect of it, but it really was a character description because, you think of a sort of weak, feeble, soft character, that has to ripen and get hard as they grow up. And so, yeah.
Okay, so this category is going to be a little spoilerish. So again, warning for those of you watching, you know, you might want to fast forward at least like maybe 6 minutes or so. But so the reason why I thought it was Marshmallow was because I thought that they were drugging the marshmallows because the cocoa was the thing that put them under or whatever, it had anesthesia or whatever the case may be. That's why I thought it was called Marshmallow. But the question I wanted to ask you is, did Morgan really see his grandfather die, or was that like an implanted memory?
He did see him die as his new self. And so the interesting thing about the characters is that like these characters are there and they've been given all of the fears, memories, all of the stuff that kids have. So as they grow up, they're not questioning things like, why don't I have emotion? Why is this not scaring me? You know what I mean? But he did see his grandfather in the beginning die, and he had memories of almost drowning at the beginning and throughout the film, right? He didn't have the real memory, but he had memories of falling in a pool and his grandpa helping him. Turns out it was just different than what really happened, was different than the memory that he was remembering.
Okay, and then by the way, those dream sequences, they felt very Nightmare on Elm Street-ish. So
Yeah.
And when I was watching, I was like, dude, this feels like Nightmare on Elm Street, like especially with the water spewing out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun. We got to build a bunch of really cool sets for all those water things, which was awesome, and have like the ceiling was pouring water down, and you know, we had rigs that they used on The Exorcist to shoot the water, which was awesome. And yeah, it was really, really fun. And that was sort of the vibe with that. Like, we liked the idea that obviously he's struggling with with nightmares and something that happened in his past. And we wanted to sort of blur the line of like, what's real, what's not. Like, and it's cool to hear so many people's interpretations of what things actually happened and what didn't, based on how those sort of nightmare scenes play out in the film.
Okay, all right, yeah. Another spoilerish question is did Pilar get her memory wiped at the end?
She did. Obviously, Morgan did not, but she did. However, the software, as we saw with CJ the bully throughout the whole film, you know, there's a lot of stuff where early on where CJ trips Morgan the first time, and Collins is sitting in his office and he's got a folder and he slams it down and he's like, shit, okay, we gotta work on this kid because something's going on here. And it gets worse and worse. And every time they try to work on him, Morgan's in the restroom and Morgan comes out. So he disrupts the first time they're going to work on him. Then they're going to do it the next day, but then the whole big action happens. So Morgan's constantly disrupting them fixing CJ, which is ultimately CJ then being worse and worse and his stuff glitching. And that kind of was what happened at the end. You know, like we start to hear the conversation like, hey, yeah, last night you had a big mess up. However, we're not concerned about your mess up. We're concerned that there's a problem with our system and things are happening. And then he looks at CJ's file and he's like, shit, okay, that's definitely what happened with CJ. And then he puts it down and then it's not CJ he sees, it's, someone else. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I figured. I was like, okay, I think she got wiped, but I don't think he didn't, obviously. But
Yeah.
she did. I felt like she did, and I felt like that was like the catalyst of like her malfunctioning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I wanted to know if the camp was kind of like symbolic for like purgatory or hell.
So it's interesting that, yes, kind of, because the campfire story that is played out, when you hear the story that's being told, it's about a doctor. He's doing life-saving work, right? Saving people's lives. And then at night he's creating monsters. And then at the end of it, he takes his family and sews them all together because he doesn't want them to ever be apart, right?
Yeah.
And that is our movie. That literally is the entire movie. It's a doctor who's saving lives, right? But he's creating monsters. and he's doing it so families will never be apart. And that's kind of what
Oh
happens.
damn!
At the end,
It just hit me.
yeah,
Okay,
he
it just
says,
hit me.
like,
I'm like, oh shit. Okay.
yeah. So he says at the end that, you know, is like, I don't want to, like, this is a good thing. Like, we're trying to keep families together. And so, yeah, the camp is kind of this weird place because while in theory, you know, you see all this stuff, you think it's shitty and bad and scary, and then you hear the reasoning at the end and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's actually not bad. But then you go, well, wait a second, they're altering life and they're playing God in some way, and that is bad. And then so there's like this dilemma that, you know, not only the people on screen have, but a viewer has, and a lot of people connect with it because they're like, what would you do in that situation if you had the opportunity? Like, you know, we've all learned that when somebody passes away that you love, it's the worst thing in the world. Sometimes you get over it, sometimes you don't, but it makes you stronger in a lot of cases, and you kind of have to move on and shape your life around that. But if there was an opportunity to do something different, would you do it? And that's a really hard thing to play with. So the camp represents that kind of, like you said, it's a purgatory. It's like they're going there and they need to go there, but should they be going there? So yeah, it's a kind of age-old question. Yeah. I just think that like anything that you do with technology in general, when it's not regulated, it's scary, right? And you know, we've experienced that in our lives as technology has become more and more accessible for us between like internet and phones and computers and all of that stuff. And we see constantly for years and years how the world is being changed and altered in different directions, right? Because of things that are coming out. And that was kind of a, you know, the film sort of plays on that just in general.
Okay. Wow, that was I'm still tripping about the story. I was like, oh yeah, it's basically about the doctor.
Yeah.
I was like, it's the doctor's story. It's just turned into a campfire
and
story.
again, it's very similar to what we said earlier, where it's like you listen to it, you're like, oh, cool, it's just a silly campfire story that they tell, and then at the end, it's a joke. You know, it's like, oh, we're just fucking with the kids, and then later they're like, yeah, we just told that story to keep kids in bed, but really, it's grounded in the whole operation. You know.
Okay, that's crazy. Is there a sequel in the works?
We are writing something. Yeah. Again, it's, you know, with independent films, you never know how it's going to go, right? But you know, we've gotten such a lovely response, and lots of people asking. So yeah, it'd be cool if we can make one. I don't know if we have a really cool idea, and I always say like sequels and prequels they have to work on their own merits, right? They need to live within the world, but they need to do something different. Nobody wants to watch the same movie a second time in a different location or in the same location with different characters. So, you know, the idea that we had, which was a lot of stuff that we wrote for our actors, which was like, hey, this is where you came from. This is why you're doing what you're doing. This is your world outside of what we see on the screen. There's a lot of the sequel that sort of plays up, and it would lean very much harder into how the end of the movie played, which that last scene would be more of what the prequel is, which is probably a bit more aggressive rather than the Black Mirror sort of thing. Like it opened the door for things to now go really wrong in the world. So
yeah, because I think that to me, that's the most interesting aspect to explore, is because again, you have like this tension built up the whole movie, and then it doesn't really pop until the end. And you're just like, damn. And then that's when the credits roll. You're like,
yeah,
damn it.
You know, it's funny, but I always say
the sequel on that would be good.
Yeah, I love it. It's, you know, it would be really fun. And I always say too, like, you know, when you go see a band play, like the band plays and then they end and you're like, oh damn, I want more. And then you leave having bought a shirt and a CD and a record and all of that stuff. And then there's sometimes I go see a band and they're playing, you're like, this is fucking awesome. And then you're like 2 hours in and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go home. And then you leave with like nothing, like you don't buy anything because you kind of had your fill. I like to think of movies that way. Like you want people to get to a certain point where sometimes it's frustrating, but you want an answer, you want the reveal, and you want to feel like you need to know more rather than putting so much into it that you're just like, oh, okay, like I got what I needed, like that's it. And I think that was part of what the movie is. It's like we really hyper focused on character, building up the characters, because if you don't build up the characters, the third act doesn't you don't relate to it emotionally and you don't connect to it, right? And it's really important to set the stage so then we can open the door and possibly do something more and bigger and, you know, over the top, which I think would be really fun.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like the development of characters. Have you seen a movie called Summer of '84?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Love that film.
Yeah, exactly. I love that film too. So the development of the kid characters in the movie, it felt kind of like that. You know,
Yeah.
I think that was an interesting point in the movie where I was like, okay, I like this whole like you guys are banding together, you guys are kind of going around and exploring, you guys are trying to find out the the boogeyman type deal. It gave me Summer of '84 vibes at that point. So I just wanted to point that out. You mentioned character development, and I feel like all these characters, not only did they do their things separately, but also when they came together, I felt like they were a lot more impactful as a unit than they were kind of separately.
Yeah, it's definitely the Goonies or Stand By Me sort of, you know, vibe where you feel like you're a part of the group, which is really cool. And you know, honestly, like even like films nowadays, there's like big action movies, like they get right into it, which is cool. But what was exciting for me to hear is like when people talk to me, they're like, oh, I related to the camp aspect because I went to camp when I was a kid, or this felt like myself and my friends, like people were connecting to that stuff more emotionally than I actually thought, which was really, really cool because then they felt invested in all the stuff that happens later. And again, you know, some people want to go in straight into action. I get that. That's a, you know, a individual preference and that's cool. But like for us, the film was more about the group of kids and, you know, you want to like them and care for them and be able to celebrate when they do some pretty cool things at the end, right? To, you know, fight, you know, and go on an adventure and then fight back, which I think is always for me the most exciting part.
I was worried that Morgan's character was going to be very cliche-ish. Like I was like, as watching the movie, I was like, damn, dude. I was like, if he ends up being a loser all the way into the end of the movie, I don't know how I'm gonna handle this, you know. But he eventually he like gets his friends because I thought he was gonna be like this outcast or this pariah the whole damn movie because based off of the beginning, how he just like how they just kind of ostracize him and just like like dweeb and they just leave him there and I'm like, damn, this is gonna be the whole movie. Like he just gets outcasted by everybody, even like the social outcasts or like kind of like pushing you away. But it was cool. It gives you that 80s vibes where it's like that typical 80s storyline where it's like you find your clique, like you find it's like the Losers Club in It, you know. He finds his group, he finds his family. And again, like if it was just given like maybe like 20 more minutes or something like that, I felt like it would have been built on a lot better, but like not better, but like it would have been expanded on more. And because we got that sense when they were like running away from like the, you know, from the people and that one scene gets like into like it gets a little intense and you get that, okay, cool, this is them finally banding together and you have everybody plays their little part, their little role. I don't know, I wanted more of that. But again, I understand why everything has a reason and based off of the ending of this movie, I'm completely content with the reason that I was given. And again, that's not easy to accomplish because sometimes I could be very hard to please when it comes to movie. I could be really like I could be a stickler. And I was like watching it, I was like, okay, I completely understand that. I get it. It's cool. I'm 100% with it, you know. And kudos to you for executing that like perfectly.
Oh, thank you.
Quick question. That's kind of like veering away from the movie again. If you were given the keys to any remake, to any horror or sci-fi movie, which one would it be? Why?
Oh man. I think I would like to play in the Children of the Corn world. I like religious. I love religious films. I think it could go pretty dark and pretty deep and pretty crazy. I think that would be a fun one for sure. I've even since I watched that kid when I was little, I expected something much different. And so like I've always had these ideas. Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, I would do this. I would try this. I would do this. And I think it could go pretty damn crazy, jumping between like false like realities and I would push more of the religion and the cult aspect of it, sacrifice aspect of it. I think that could be pretty cool.
It's funny that you mentioned the realism, the warping of reality and stuff. Because I remember watching the remake to Hellraiser.
Yep.
And I was like, and I watched it and I was like, dude, they didn't. I was like, they kind of were onto something. I was like, but they just completely dropped the ball. I was like, you had this girl. Did you see the remake to Hellraiser?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So they had this girl who was a drug addict, and I felt like they could have had this point in the movie where they were questioning her, like, "Are you like you're on that shit again? Like, you know, like you're off the shit. Like you're seeing these monsters or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you're trying to bring us down, like whatever the kid. Like, you know, like it could have been that thing where she even starts believing, like, maybe it's because I'm getting high. Like, you know, maybe it's this, maybe it's not that.
Yeah. Them pushing back is making her even question her own what she's seeing. And they did it in one scene where she gets in there and I believe it like snaps back and she's in the back of a car or something. I can't remember, but she like goes into that, you know, this other reality. That's the kind of stuff that I love. And like, you know, honestly, even the Evil Dead remake a handful of years ago went because she was a drug addict as well. And they were really pushing on her the whole time. Like, because they're like, yeah, she's obviously on drugs and she's having withdrawal. And that's why she's saying this. And that's why she's acting all crazy. And so they leaned into it harder than they did in the Hellraiser remake. But yeah, that I think that's a really good vehicle because anytime, you know, you have people that are pushing on you hard enough, then you start to go, well, maybe it is me. You know what I mean? And that's a whole other dilemma because when you're trying to, you know, fight something and you can't even trust yourself, it opens up another like weird avenue for things to go down different places or different, you know, different halls.
Yeah, because another religious movie, two other religious movies that come to mind, religious horror movies are Saint Maud.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. Have you ever seen the movie Exorcism of God?
Exorcism of God?
Yeah.
I've not seen that.
That one has that one has a very interesting concept, and I think that it took a different look at how we do religious horror. And then the beginning of the movie is a straight love letter to The Exorcist. Like it seems like a shot for shot like reenactment of The Exorcist. If you're okay with that, can I give you a little backstory of it?
Yeah. What year did it come out?
It didn't come out that long ago. It's a couple of years old.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I want to say it's a Spanish movie. And are you familiar with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yes. Yeah.
Jeffrey the Butler's in that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I know it's random as shit. He's a priest. It's random as hell. But this movie has a very interesting concept. There's this priest who's like known for like giving exorcism or whatever like that, and in the movie, this demon, it's like, you know how in every exorcist movie, the priests are looked at like these, you know, like perfect men, you know, and the demon is playing into that. He knows that there's no such thing as a perfect man. So what the demon does is playing into the weakness of the priest. The priest is like, I don't know, the demon knows that the priest has a lustful eye. So the demon possessed a girl that the priest had a lustful eye for, and he's making all of these comments while the priest is trying to exorcise the demon from the girl. So it adds like this personal layer to it. So even the title, The Exorcism of God, is that by the end of the movie, the demon wants to do this reverse exorcism where you embody the spirit of God in you when you take on the cloth, when you take on the name. And what he's doing is he's exercising that God spirit from out of you.
That's so
just
cool.
like you would exercise a demon. So I feel like at certain points it's like poor, like the CGI is bad in certain points, but I think that movie has really good bones. I was actually really surprised by that movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love all religious horror films. It's funny because I was talking to a buddy about this the other day. It's, you know, we could watch any awesome slasher film and like, you know, Terrifier or whatever, and it's cool, grounded a little bit, but there's definitely like you sort of like put your stuff at the door when you watch it because it's so over the top. But the religious thing is like religion is so steeped in our culture, and you know what I mean, and it's been around for so long. So there's something that just feels a little bit more tangible to that than like, you know, Freddy Krueger coming out of your dreams or whatever. And so like that's, I think, is why a lot of those movies for me are exciting, because it feels like, oh, okay, this is is sort of where religion came from and the things that they've talked about, you know, in the Bible and all this stuff from back in the day. And it's cool to see that sort of expand upon and push it even further. And so for me, like with Children of the Corn, like I mentioned, it has that backbone, right? That structure to it. It'd be cool to see more of that just then beyond what we just, you know, used to see on the screen. So
yeah, because I rewatched Children of the Corn, like the original, a while ago, and I don't know, I just wasn't like, I was like, this used to hit different when I was a kid. I don't know, it was something about it. Like when I watched it as an adult, I'm like, like I don't know, it just doesn't have that same pizzazz that it had when I was a kid. I'll probably have to look at it from a different lens.
Yeah, it's funny because I watched it, you know, a handful of years ago with my wife, and she had never seen it. And I was like, okay, so we put it on. She goes, yeah, like that didn't do it for me. And I was like, okay, I watched it when I was a kid, so it definitely. But I was talking to her about the similar stuff that we're doing. Like I go, yeah, if it's steeped more in all of this stuff, she goes, yeah, that'd be cool. But it wasn't necessarily.
But that's not what it was.
Yeah, that's not what it was. I said, yeah.
Yeah, because because I mean that movie could have turned into like a full-on Wicker Man.
Yeah,
but
that would be a really good balance because it is very like that religious cult type thing, and Wicker Man does a really great job of that. You know, it builds up that whole sort of weird group of people that you know is something is off, but you know what is it, and you just don't expect that. And I think you could do a similar thing in children.
Yeah. Did you like Saint Maud?
I did. I thought it was cool. The end of it was great, and there were some really fantastic moments in there. I didn't know what to expect, and I try to watch movies without ever reading or seeing reviews, just because I just don't want it to influence, you know, going into
judgment.
Yeah. There's I thought it was cool though. I think it's cool. I think anybody making a movie is awesome. Like that's a victory in itself, and you know, again, it's all very personal and where you are emotionally and mentally at that time when you watch a movie, because that plays a big thing. You could have something going on in your life. You watch a movie and you don't respond a certain way because you're affected, right? And so I think that is a big thing for movies. And sometimes people want to go to watch, I don't know, some silly movie at the theater because they have so much shit going on in their life that it takes them out and it lets them enjoy something silly for a minute. But yeah, I thought Saint Maud was cool. That ending was cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked Saint Maud. I felt like there was certain pieces that could have been like executed a little bit better. But I mean, overall, like that was one of the better cultish religious horror-based movies. I felt like Midsommar dropped the ball, in my opinion, but that's just me. But again, like you just said, all movies are subjective. So I mean, it is what it is. Quick question. I got two more questions before we go in and wrap this in the park, and I think this is a good one. What would your Mount Rushmore of classic horror movies be?
Ooh, damn, that's a hard one. Let's see.
We'll follow up with another one.
Yeah. Alien, I think, would be up there for sure. Probably Texas Chainsaw Massacre again, because I had that connection to it when I was really young. I would say Altered States would be another one. And lastly, The Fly.
Good one.
Yeah, I'm a huge
the original or the 80s?
The Cronenberg. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
Cronenberg pisses me off sometimes. He's like a fucking genius, but then he makes something that makes me mad.
Yeah, it's really funny. I saw an article today. I didn't read the article. I just saw the headline and I saved it because I wanted to read it. And it said, I still don't understand why people think I make movies that are very cold. And I was like, oh, I'm interested to hear what he says. But like he did so much stuff that I love. Like, and same thing with David Lynch. And again, those are filmmakers that are, you love them or you hate them. And I like David Lynch. For me, I always loved his stuff growing up, and still, just because it captures this sort of weird, like nightmare-ish dream state. Like his movies like play very much how a dream is, where you're like, you're here, and then you're here, and then this happens, and this person happens, and like things pop in and out. And I think he's a filmmaker that was able to capture that. And then Cronenberg plays on the other side, where he's like, he plays with what's inside, but coming out, right? In terms of and in how your body transforms and how other people and like all of that stuff. And I really like those two very different approaches. But again, it all stems from a human being, and sometimes people being the scariest monsters that are that are out there.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Kronberg and you said the In and Out. That last damn movie he did with those people that were eating plastic pissed me off. I forgot what the name of it was.
The not the Shrouds, not his newest one, the one right before that, Crimes of the Future. Crimes of the Future.
Oh my God. I wanted to shake the screen. I was so mad. I was like, that one didn't do it for me. I was so mad about that because I saw the trailer and I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be good. And I watched it and I'm like, damn, that it felt flat for me. I didn't like that.
Yeah, one. It's funny. It's just some of them hit different ways, I think I watched. What did I watch with my wife? We watched History of Violence. And
I love that movie.
I love it. So good. And we went to the theater to see that. And she was like, she likes Cronenberg stuff to some extent, but she's also like, I don't want to see The Fly. Like, she can't stand watching The Fly because it makes her sick. And so she's like, I can't go to a Cronenberg movie if that's what you're going to give me. I'm like, no, it's very different. And we both left and she's like, okay, I like that Cronenberg.
Yeah, that was that third act was crazy. Yeah, crazy. I've been wanting to rewatch that movie. I haven't seen it in so many damn years. Oh, you still haven't seen it? I gotta show you that movie. Yeah, my wife's like, I still haven't watched it because I made her. I remember when we first started dating. I made her buy it at Book Off, which is like this used DVD store, and I was like, watch it, and she was like, okay, and she never watched it. Now we gotta sit down and watch it one of these days. But what about if you had to have a Mount Rushmore for modern horror, who would be on it?
Modern horror.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's a tough one. Modern horror.
I would say 2010 and up.
2010 and up?
Yeah. Oh, I think that to me is more modern. I think
where are you with that? What are yours?
I think Hereditary belongs up there.
Yeah, that's a good. That's
I think When Evil Lurks belongs up there. I think Train to Busan belongs up there. And then damn, the last one. What else? Maybe damn, it depends when that movie came out. It was probably either going to be The Wailing, the Korean movie.
Yeah, you're fantastic. So
I think I'll drop The Wailing in there.
I think for me, it would be I Saw the Devil.
Oh, damn, that's another one.
Yeah, I Saw the Devil. I love that film. I really like Eden Lake. I think that was a really good one.
I haven't seen that, but I heard it's good.
It's good. It's really great. I love Possessor, Cronenberg's son.
Brother.
Brandon. Yeah. Possessor. Have you seen that one?
No, I've heard about it. I heard it's really good.
It's really, really good. It's dark as shit. It's funny. I watched that movie and I was like, I don't know how he got financing for that movie because it's so dark. It's just a beating. And lastly, man, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's maybe say Hereditary. I think that sort of opened the doors again for horror films.
Especially artsy horror.
Yeah. I think that film really pushed the more artistic, artsy, independent style films into the mainstream, which is really cool. So outside of it being a good movie, it definitely did, I think, a lot for the industry. And I think it did, studios seeing that and going like, oh, okay, we could start to take a chance again. Because
that did a lot for A24.
Yeah, huge. I mean, it definitely, they saw what they could do. And there was always like one cluster of movies that would come out every handful of years that do that. Like when Scream came out, it sort of opened the door again. Hereditary opened the door again. We had in the 80s with like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, that opened the door again. Like there was always these sort of film pockets that would hit that allowed studios to jump in on it, and then it starts to fizzle away, and then something else comes, and then it goes again.
Yeah, because you have like I think A24 opened the door for companies like Neon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because Neon's been doing it lately, and I'm like, okay. And then even freaking the production company that brought Terrifier, they're also doing
Cineverse. Yeah, Cineverse, right?
Cineverse. Yeah, they're coming up too because they now they have the rights to Silent Night, Deadly Night
Yeah.
with old boy from
Yeah, Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills. Look, I feel like I know they're doing a Christine remake. He needs to be Artie in that damn movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be perfect. It's like, to me, that's like a match made in heaven. Like, he needs to be Artie in that movie, like hands down.
You know,
Because he was already acting like him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know what's cool is that like companies like A24 and Neon and Cineverse now, like those are all very like filmmaker like forward companies, which is cool that they're bringing on, you know, more guerrilla style independent like filmmakers in the sense, and they're letting them do their thing. Like, and Neon has done that and struck gold with like, you know, Long Legs and with The Monkey and all of that stuff where they're like, hey, do your thing and we'll support it. A24, the same thing. Some of them get bigger pushes marketing wise and theater wise, but they're really letting filmmakers, they're just giving them a lot of rope, which is cool, which is really cool, you know?
Because I'm mad that Beau is Afraid wasn't as well received as I felt like it should have been. I thought that movie was amazing.
I remember putting that on and I watched that and it felt like a even more fucked up version of a Michel Gondry movie. And I love Michel Gondry. Like I love Eternal Sunshine. That's one of my favorite movies. And I remember watching that going like, holy shit, he like amped it up like to fucking 11. It was crazy.
Yeah. That movie feels like a freaking anxiety attack. Like it feels like you're going through a panic attack the whole movie. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's the way it starts off. It just is like it hits you hard and it does not let up at all. And that's, I mean, that's yeah.
And it's a beautifully shot film too. Like there's some camera angles in that movie, some shots in that movie that are like damn near like tear worthy. You're like, dude, that is a beautiful shot. And I even felt the same way watching freaking Joker too. Even though I don't like it, there's some beautiful cinematography in that movie.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, amazing. Really, really fantastic stuff for sure. Yeah. Man. It's the stuff people are doing is great. And you know, honestly, it takes an investor or a company to just not, you know, like lock in, right? And just go play, have fun, and bring your vision to the screen. And that's really exciting. And again, whether a movie is good or not in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is that somebody got the chance to do their idea at the level that they wanted to do it. And that's a victory. And you just said that, like Joker 2, for example, got a lot of shit, but honestly, they made the movie they wanted to make and the studio let them make that movie, whether that was the right choice or not. Pretty cool. You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like he did that. I felt like he did it on purpose. He did that shit on purpose. That was really a middle finger to the studio, because he was like, I don't want to make another movie. Like, please make another movie. It made $1 billion. He's like, you really want me to make another movie? They're like, yes, please make another movie. He's like, all right, I'm about to make the most fucking ridiculous movie that you ever heard of.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was beautifully shot though. I mean, I can give it that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just need more people willing to take a chance, you know, and when they allow people to take that chance, we often find success. We find more success than we find failures, which is really cool. And that's how we get great movies like When Evil Lurks and stuff like that, you know.
Where, that was a good fun movie.
Yeah, people are just doing cool shit. Yeah.
Oh man, we need a remake to Phantasm. I feel like that'll be good.
Oh yeah. I want
a Phantasm remake. I feel like that'll be freaking amazing, especially because I was watching. I have the remastered version on Blu-ray. It's a part of that set up there somewhere that came with the orb. But anyway, that remastered version is old and it's a Blu-ray and it's so good. Like the way that they really touched that movie up amazing. That Blu-ray looks like a 4K. That's how good it looks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was like, dude, whoever remastered this shit, like, go hug them, because this is amazing.
It's so funny because some stuff that gets remastered, you could tell that it's like they just pump it right through and that's it. And then there's other times where, you know, I feel like the director or the colorist is like, you know, is a part of the process. And those films look so damn good. It's crazy. Like I show my kids some stuff and they're like, you're telling me this was made in like 1984? It's like, yeah. And they're like, damn, this looks so good. it's all about the restoration of film, you know.
I still haven't popped in my Hitcher. I want to watch it.
The
I got
original,
that
the
freaking
original
Hitcher.
Hitcher.
The original Hitcher from 88. I think 88 Films remastered it.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to watch that damn movie because I know that the director was a part of the process. So I really want to see what it looks like. Especially because that movie is super underrated and it's an amazing freaking movie.
I love that movie. I love it. The scene with the trucks is just, I remember when I first saw that when I was young, I was like, oh my God. I think of that anytime I like stop at a gas station and there's a bunch of trucks. I'm like, tie somebody up.
You're like, hopefully there's nobody, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody's not late. Are there any movies that you're looking forward to this year?
Yes.
Whether they came out already or not.
Yeah, I actually really want to see Sinners. I haven't seen that yet. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, I just did my review. Great
Is it
movie.
good? Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I'm
good
asking
movie.
that. It's amazing. Yeah.
If you're if you love music, music plays a bigger part in it than I'd even thought. And it's to me, I think it was well done. I think it was really well incorporated into the film.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited for that one. I'm actually really excited to see Friendship with Tim Robbins and Paul Rudd. It's an A24 film.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that looks really, really, really great.
Damn, Paul Rudd though. I don't know. Paul Rudd is a hard time for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's more. It seems like it's more leaning on Tim Robbins' like sensibilities. And I can't tell. Like if you watch the trailer, I can't tell what genre film it is. Like it's very like it's funny and weird, but it looks dark. But I thought it was a very effective trailer.
It's like Parasite. I left the movie still not knowing like what genre would I throw that damn movie in because it had a little bit of everything.
It did, and it doesn't get. It really shifts at the end, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I would expect. But yeah, so that's another one that I'm really looking forward to. What about you?
Are you a fan of Takashi Miike?
Oh yeah, I love
Takashi Miike.
Yeah.
Did you ever see what is it, True Love, or is it First Love?
The newer film, right?
Yeah, it's newer. It came out like a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
it's called like First Love or True Love or something. I forgot.
Yeah, I did not see it. Is it good?
Yeah, that was a great movie. I had a lot of fun with that. First Love, there you go. First Love. I remember we went to like we went all the way to Pasadena to go see that movie, huh? We went far to go see that shit. And then the dude that the director that did Cuckoo, I didn't realize that was the same damn director that did Loose.
Yep. Yeah. That was another that was great.
Dude, we went to it. Okay, so that movie pissed me off because I liked it.
Yeah.
Cinematography wise, it's a freaking amazing movie. Has one of the craziest, most realistic possession. If I ever seen somebody get possessed, I would think that that's what it looks like.
Yes,
that's what I feel like in a possession should look like. I mean, the only thing that pissed me off about that movie was the lack of dialogue, and then the dialogue that was in the movie was very repetitive. And I was just like, like if you have your characters talk just a little bit more and like maybe have like real dialogue, it'll be better. But the fact that at one point it turns into like a stage play, like it was
so theatrical, but so theatrical, and it was very like experimental, where it was interesting for me for that. I really like that, and it was funny to watch Cuckoo because it had those nuggets, but it was very different, and I didn't know what to expect. But talking about Takashi Miike, I remember I was going on a date with this girl a while ago, and they were doing a Takashi Miike film festival where I lived, and they were playing a bunch of his movies, and I had seen them all, a lot of them. And so I was really excited to go watch like Audition and Visitor Q and all these films, Happiness of the Katasaras on the screen. And I brought this girl to go watch Visitor Q, and we were watching it, and we were like not that long into it. And she's like, this is not okay. And it did not go over well at all. And we didn't go on a date again after that. And I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have taken her to see that film.
Yeah, Takashi Miike is a very hard sell to people.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, his most popular work is a fucking what's the name of the movie? I can't.
Oh yeah,
dude with the cuts in the mouth.
Yeah, Itchy the Killer.
Itchy the Killer. Yeah. That's the most well. I remember that's the first movie I seen her because we had a choir teacher who was like would just show us movies all the damn time because we weren't going to sing anyway. So he was like, "Oh, you guys should see Itchy the Killer." And I'm like, "What the hell is Itchy the Killer?" And then one of my friends was like, "Yo, it's a crazy ass movie. You should watch it." And I remember hunting this stupid ass movie down until I found it. And I was like, when I watched it, I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." But yeah, Takashi Miike is awesome. I like following him. I like following the director that did Old Boy.
Yeah,
he's
great too.
He's amazing. And it's funny because I wish the actor that played Old Boy in that movie, I wish he became more popular like the dude from Train to Busan. Like dude from Train to Busan is in like all these American movies. He was in freaking he was in a Marvel movie and shit. Not a Marvel movie.
Star Wars.
Yeah, he wasn't Marvel. He was in Marvel. He was in Star Wars.
Yeah.
He was in freaking The Eternals. You know, and I'm like, damn, like why didn't he get that kind of like love? But it is what it is. Because I saw The Devil.
Oh,
dude,
yeah. I
love that movie. I love that movie. It's like that's like one of the movies where I'm like, that's an A+ movie. Like you can't get around that. That's super A+.
Did you see the movie Chaser?
Chaser sounds super familiar. I feel like I did.
It's a Korean film, and you should check that out. It's really cool. It's very similar. Very similar. I saw the Devil, and I remember like I watched. I saw the Devil, and then I found Chaser and watched Chaser right afterwards because I had heard about it, and I was in Korea actually when I bought it. So like back in the day, I remember when like we were hearing when the internet is just starting to be a thing, and I was hearing about all these like crazy like French and Korean horror films. So like I bought an all region player, you know, for like too much money. And I started buying and ordering all these imports from like Korea and France and like Italy and all these places and getting these just obscure movies because some random person at some point in my life mentioned it. It's nice now that everything is very accessible.
Someone mentioned Salo and you're like, I gotta watch it.
Yeah. Well, it was stuff like that, getting a bunch of these weird movies like, oh, this is the most fucked up movie ever. This is the most fucked up movie. This is the scariest movie.
Like,
yeah. And that's when like The Ring, you know, the original Ring and all of those films started to like, before they started to pop up everywhere. Like High Tension had just come out at the time. So this is probably.
High Tension was such a damn good movie. It's funny because I remember watching, I didn't even know it was French. Like I remember seeing it all the time, and I remember you used to see it at Best Buy all the freaking time. And I'm like, what is High Tension? I'm thinking it's like one of them super low, because you remember the 2000s had like a lot of those Lionsgate, like under the radar, like super gory releases, and I was like, oh, it's probably just one of those movies. And you know, those movies don't turn out to be too good. So you just kind of like the what is it, the Left 4 Dead? What's the movie Left 4 Dead? The one where it spawned like a million sequels where their car breaks down.
It's not Wrong Turn. Like
Wrong Turn. Yes, it is. Wrong Turn. Yeah. Wrong Turn. That shit's on like 8 movies. But I thought it was like in that category. So I'm like, whatever, I'm not gonna watch it. Then when I watched it and I get to the end, I'm like, yo, okay, cool. That was different.
I had bought the like import of that film back in the day, and we were watching it. And I was just like, oh my God, it like totally blew my mind. And then I remember years later, they bought it in Lionsgate, I think, right? Bought it and they re-released it. Yeah. And they like dubbed it and everything. But I remember having seen it earlier and I was like super stoked on it, which so cool. Yeah.
And, dude, film.
I know, I can't get enough of it. Can't get enough.
Yeah, but I appreciate you for showing up today and doing this interview. We got to do it again. Would you ever be willing to do a live?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I love talking to people that love film and nerding out on shit. So whatever you got, let me know. I'm down. I could talk all day long about movies. It's a dream.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we got to do that. That'll be fun. And I get a little panel going. We go ask some questions, just have fun, just talk movies in general. Because I mean, I review every type of movie on this channel, but I like my niche is like horror. Like I really love horror. Cool. And it seems like that's up your alley too. So it makes everything perfect.
Yeah. So, easy conversations for sure.
Is there anything that you're working on in the future that you want people to look out for before we wrap this up?
Got a couple of films that we're looking to hopefully make right now. No official word, but after finishing this one up, we look to dive into another one, which would be cool. And the one that we're working on is definitely a little bit more on the other side, like a little more extreme and a little bit weirder and darker, and more gory and in that kind of world, you know. So
Okay.
yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to play with that. And I mean, you saw my short, like it very different than Marshmallow, but like I like to play that sort of the sort of different avenues. So I'm excited to, you know, to swing it. And
when I saw the short, I'm like, I was like, okay, because that was practical, right? In the short,
yeah,
that was like prosthetics and stuff.
Yeah, everything's practical. I only do practical stuff. That's the goal.
Okay, cool, perfect.
Yes,
that's good to hear because
like on this film and like actually a handful of my other shorts, Bob Kurtzman did the effects, and Bob has done like every movie you've ever heard of. Like he's done Evil Deads and Nightmare on Elm Street and Leatherface and everything. Look him up. He's got his resume is just insane. So like I'm a nerd in general, but I'm really a nerd when I get to work with Bob. So I'm excited for this next one because it's definitely way more weird body transformation creature stuff, which will be cool.
Yeah, because what's Gary's last name? Have you ever heard of Gary Tunnicliffe?
I don't think so.
Gary Tunnicliffe, he worked a lot on the Hellraiser movies, but dude is a talented ass artist. Like he's a talented artist. He does like a lot of like makeup effects and stuff like that. He was the one that helped. Have you seen the movie Dark Harvest?
Yeah.
He was the one that helped out with the whole like setup and painting that and getting it all together. So Gary's super freaking talented. I remember meeting him at a convention and we had a long conversation. He's just talking about all the movies that he worked on, and he did like him and Mike. They did some stuff for the recent Exorcist movie that came out like not too long ago.
Yeah.
So they designed some of the pieces in that movie. So I was like, oh, okay. So talking with them is really cool. Like when you meet somebody that's like behind the scenes and they're like knee deep in the gutter and doing all the crazy work, they have some great stories.
Oh, they do.
So I can completely relate to what you're talking about with the visual effects.
And Bob started KNB with the guys as well. And you know, KNB is doing they do everything, and like Greg is doing, you know, Walking Dead and Creepshow, all that stuff. But like he was like, there was the three dudes, they all started together, and then they've all now are doing their own thing. But they're like legendary dudes for sure.
Yeah,
inspiring.
Yeah. Man, seriously. But yeah, so let everybody know where they can find you. What's the best way that they can keep up with anything that you're doing?
Yeah. I am on Instagram. It's Daniel.DelPurgatorio, which is you could like try to randomly type it into Google and it'll pop up. It's the only one. Or on my website, you could see a bunch of my stuff, DelPurgatorio.com. So
okay. Yes. All right. Well, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you guys have any questions that you want me to ask Daniel? I can ask him. Let me know if you guys are interested in me bringing them back, because even if you aren't, I'm still bringing them back because this was a fun conversation. I would definitely love to do a live stream. We just chit chat about movies. We could talk movie news and, just pick each other's brains. It's always fun. But I appreciate you for coming by, and I really do. And we got to do this again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. Look forward to doing it again.
All right, no problem. So now you guys are exiting the Cinema Chop Shop. Make sure you guys hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure you guys hit up Daniel on Instagram. Bother him about Marshmallow and Marshmallow 2. And tell him to make a sequel called S'mores.
Sold.
All right. All right.
Thanks so much.
You guys have a great day, and adios.
I want to play a game. Subscribe now. The choice is yours. You're now exiting the Cinema Chop.